eligible to sign that extension. What is the latest with the negotiations between him and the defending champion LA Lakers?
Well, there's not going to be a rush. There's not going to be a quick Anthony Davis agreement, I'm told, at least probably not until well into next week. I was told past Thanksgiving. Davis,
wow.
Listen, he's returning to the Lakers. It's going to be a question of what the deal looks like. He's got a few different options in terms of the structure, how long he's going to go. He can do like a 2+1, 3-year deal with an option after 2. That lines him up with LeBron James. They could be on the same, be on the same trajectory at that point. So that's what he's going to talk to the Lakers about. He and Rich Paul, his agent, into the next week. I know Rich Paul will talk to Rob Pelinka tonight. He's got KCP, who's also a free agent there. But you saw LeBron James do this in Cleveland when he was on those 1-year deals, and you knew he was going back. Some of them extended several weeks, a few weeks. I don't know if ADs will go that long, right. But there's just going to be a window of time here before he decides or firmly commits to whatever contract structure they finally land on.
The other big sort of idea we're going to be talking about today and looking for is how these free agents or moves or trades are going to fit in with teams that they don't know what they're getting this coming year in terms of fans in the stands, revenue coming in. There's question marks about how much room there is available. Not a lot of teams have huge, gallons of cap space the way we've seen in some other years. How is that going to affect guys like Fred VanVleet or Serge Ibaka, who aren't those big, huge names like Kawhi Leonard last year, but who have won rings and could be a key ingredient to add to a championship mix on another team?
I think Fred VanVleet is very likely to return to Toronto. Maybe it hurts him in his negotiations as to what number he can get to with the Raptors on his extension versus if there were a lot of teams with cap space and he had a lot of, maybe some more viable options out there. But I think VanVleet returns to Toronto. But I think two of Toronto's free agents, Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, very much up in the air where they play. Those are two players who a lot of teams around the league want to talk to here in the next a couple days, and I think Toronto would like to keep as much of the group together as they can. And so, those will be some interesting questions. But I think you look around the league and you see players like, Joe Harris. I think Brooklyn will move here in the next couple days to try to get Harris locked up. And some players, who are key components to teams. Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, both extension eligible. Those are very likely extensions that they'll get done here, I think, sometime in the next few days.
Yeah, well, we know that a lot of these moves set up the moves that create a trade to get a big-name player in a week or two, so we're going to be watching all of them for sure. Woj, I know how busy you are right now. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. We will say goodbye, but please come back if news breaks. We'll look for you through the rest of the show. Thank you so much. All right, back to our guys. I want to bring back in Paul. So we know Giannis will be able to sign that Supermax extension, Paul Pierce, but my question is, should he? Would you, if it was you?
If I'm Giannis, $230 million is going to be pretty hard to turn down. I mean, he's still young. And then you're with a franchise who has shown the commitment to try at least get better. I mean, I know they had a trade that went through. They got Drew Holiday. They didn't get Bogdanovich. But it just shows you that they're trying to get better at all costs. And if I had this on the table, there's no way I wouldn't take this. Look at that, 228.
What about you, Vince Carter?
He's right. He's in the position. I mean, that's a lot of money, man. Like, point blank. But and I know he wants to win. And I think Milwaukee is showing that they're trying to do everything they can to bring in stars and some pieces to strengthen their team. I think Drew Holiday is a great asset and a great piece to him. Two-way player, tough guy. And I know things fell through with Bogey Bogdanovich, but this is a great start in the right direction to lure him back.
Well, Amin Al-Hassan popping in with us as well right now. And look, I have never been in the position of having to accept or turn down $230 million. So I can't say for sure what I would do. But considering he could get the exact same amount of money next year, next offseason, considering that we have seen even players, if they get a significant injury like Kevin Durant tearing his Achilles and Brooklyn signing him to that max deal anyway, right out of the gate, knowing that he couldn't play for them for a year. So knowing that that kind of situation, that insurance is out there if you get hurt, why would you sign this deal? Is that security just you take it while you got it?
Yeah, I think you talk about the security. Again, it's one thing to say Durant got the money anyway, but we also know that Durant's game is injury-proof in the sense that his height, his length, his shooting can allow him to kind of overcome an Achilles injury in a way that Giannis could not, because his game is so heavily based on athleticism and explosion. But I'm with you, Rachel. If the money's the same from the Bucks now or next summer, why not wait till next summer and then give yourself real options? And the thing is, when you throw up that graphic of what he could get from other teams versus what he could get with the Bucks, it fails to recognize that he probably wouldn't sign a 4-year deal. He'd probably sign a 2+1, opt out when he hits the 10-year mark, and then sign a new deal then with a higher slice of a bigger pie. And that's the big thing there, is that it's not quite 145 versus 230 or 228. It's a little bit more than that from that he could get otherwise. And so you want to see if what the Bucks have done are these moves cosmetic? Are they moves that are going to move the needle, or are they just names that we got in here and we end up not being that much better than what we were before?
Let me tell y'all something.
Well, Paul, what do you think of this
listen
lineup?
to this. No, listen. We're in an era right now. If you asked all the players in the league, would you rather have $230 million or a championship ring? I bet you 99% of them would say $230 million.
Really?
Take the money, secure the bag.
Elite players. That's the top 10 players.
It don't matter. Every player in the league. Every player in the league. You ask them right now. The money is so great now.
Especially at that number 230.
It's too great right now. Let's just be honest. The number has gotten too great. You know, when me and Vince played, our max was like 70, 80, which was a great number. But 230, come on, man. Give me 230, and y'all can have that.
But Paul, if the money's waiting for you either way, what's the rush?
Like you said, his game is not injury-proof. He breaks a leg, tears an Achilles. His game might not recover because he don't have the skill set that Durant has. Come on, we all know that. Just the honest truth right there. Y'all wanted it, you got it.
Well, look, I'm operating in a world where, again, you talk to me or Amin, whose max salary never hit $70 million, Paul Pierce, just saying. $230 million is an insane number, but I'm also living in a world where I just saw James Harden turn down a 2-year, $103 million extension. So I'm seeing guys, because, James basically has made about $300 million by the time this current contract he's on is going to be over, and saying, okay, I care a little bit more about winning. Anthony Davis had the chance to make more money with the Pelicans and still asked out to go to L.A. because he said, look, I do have a lot of money already in career earnings. I care more about winning. So it's not unprecedented, but I will say that the Achilles injury or something like that, the threat of that is real, because we're seeing so many of these to key players. It's not just Kevin Durant. We learned yesterday, guys, about Klay Thompson, right? Go ahead.
I will add to this, to that part. What Paul is what he's saying is, at the end, especially if you're a guy who's injury prone and you've had some injury that has put you out of contentions or just opportunities to win. Sometimes the best route is going to get that money. Our sport is guaranteed. So when you have that money locked up, you have it locked up. So, what it means saying and what Paul is saying, they're both saying great things, but it's like, if you're a guy that's been injury prone, you don't want to take that chance at that number.
Not that number.
Not that number.
Well, that's certainly true. And by the way,
Paul, like
even if you're not a guy.
Baby.
230? Nah, not that number. Not on duty.
I guess we better listen to the millionaires. I was going to say, even if you're not a guy who's injury prone, you have to think about it. Klay Thompson, of course, tearing his Achilles. You have to remember, he was the Warriors' Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
Can sign that long-term extension we've been talking about with the Lakers. All roads, of course, lead to him staying in LA. He does have some choices. And as you heard Woj say in our last block, he's not expected to commit in the immediate days. Brian, can you explain a little bit about what's going on here to our audience, what his options are, and is there any point they should start getting nervous?
Well, there's some speculation out there, Rachel, that one of the reasons why he's going to delay his decision is because the Lakers have some other free agency moves to make, and he just wants to let them know he's watching. Now, I don't think there's any stress out there. He will be a Laker, but one of the guys they have to make a decision on, and it's a tough decision about how much to pay him, is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who is represented by the same agent, Rich Paul. Now, I think Caldwell-Pope is going to have some interest out there in the market. Whether or not he can get enough money out there to actually leave the Lakers is a different story. But this is somewhat reminiscent of when J.R. Smith was a free agent back in 2016 in Cleveland, represented by Rich Paul, and LeBron took his sweet time over that summer before signing. Now, having said that, LeBron did sign before J.R. Smith did. But while I think Anthony Davis has been well aware of his contract's options for months now, maybe it's just a little bit of a check game that he's playing.
Paul, if you were Anthony Davis, would you commit 2 years plus a player option, do the 1-and-1, where you're only committing for another year? We've seen that be a strain on teams, like when Kevin Durant kept doing the 1-and-1s and the 1-and-1s, that just brought all these questions about whether he was really going to stay. Or do you want to keep your flexibility if you're Anthony Davis?
I think it's important for the players these days to keep their flexibility. I always line my contract up directly with LeBron's because, as you can see, he can sign for 35% of the cap after that 10 years. And so, you know, LeBron, he could probably retire in 2-3 years. Who knows? You know, but I'll line my situation up with his. But what Anthony Davis got to understand is you're a Laker, you won a championship. Now, if you decide after 2 years you don't want to be a Laker or 3 years you don't want to be a Laker, it's like, to me, where do you go from there? And so I really would start thinking long term. I would think even for a 5 or 6 year deal. I mean, because after you may win another championship as a Laker. There's nowhere else you can go after being a Laker after winning 2 championships and being the face of the franchise long after LeBron has left. So, I mean, his options are open, and that's a good thing to have these type of options for Anthony Davis to make these type of decisions, because he's one of those players whose game is injury-proof also. He's 7 feet, athletic. He can do so many things with the ball. He can shoot, soft touch, handle the ball. So sky's the limit for this kid. Whether he stays healthy or not, he's still going to get a great deal. So maybe 2 is the way to go.
I like what you're saying, Paul, and I agree. He really has some flexibility. I think lining his contract up with LeBron is a great thing to do. You know, win as much as possible. And then down the line, obviously, you could do the 1-and-1s back at home. I know that was talked about. I think Chicago, a couple other teams where he could possibly go back. He could do his 1-and-1s then. But right now, you want to win as much as possible. And he can make a lot of money on a very good team with the chance to win another championship back-to-back possibly. So I think right now, I don't walk away from that opportunity. I mean, I think, you know, at the end of the day, he's going to be a Laker. And that's just, they're just giving all these, you know, just doing, like I said, playing the game a little bit. Yeah, I know I'm signing there. I'll sign later, you know, just for the drama, you know.
What's life without a little bit of drama? And by the way, Paul, I know that you have your number retired in Boston. Right, exactly. I know, Paul, you have your number retired in Boston Garden, but you're clearly always an LA kid if you're saying, what could you possibly want besides playing for the Lakers? I mean, that there's not even a consideration of another team. That's the most LA thing I think I've heard you say in a while. I do want to move on to the Sixers,
after basketball anyway.
Yes, for sure.